Mucho bettero. Welcome back to the NFA Review channel, everyone. Today we're going to review this bad boy, the Henry Rifles all-weather 4570. So I actually just got back from a trip from Yellowstone. So we visited Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, and I actually brought this along with us for bear protection, along with some other guns, and of course, bear spray. But I've had this in possession for quite a while, and I wanted to actually use it, get to know it before I did a review here, because this is a little offbeat review here for the channel, being that it is not threaded. We will discuss that later. But let's just give this a quick rundown here in the studio. It did very well. It was nice knowing I had such a capable woods firearm on my back when we went on some less desirable hiking paths with bear sign in the area, of course with scat and actual trees that were torn up and fresh prints. So got a little unnerving there, especially when my wife had our 2-year-old Emma strapped to her back. So it was nice knowing that I had this with some solid hard lead cast projectiles to put down any threats should the need arise. Luckily, nothing happened out there, but it was beautiful. Side note, if you haven't checked out our beautiful Grand Tetons Park and Yellowstone Park, please set aside a week with your family to do so. It is a majestic place. That's the only word I can think of to describe it. It is absolutely vast and gorgeous there. I think it was over 2 million acres. We flew in, right, rented a Suburban, and we were there for 7 days and put 1,400 miles on it in 7 days, to give you an idea of how vast those two parks are. So take that for what you will. I highly suggest you visit that park. Now, let's go ahead and cover in detail the specifications on the all-weather 4570, and then we're going to hit the range and see how it does. Let's get to it. All right, first things first, it comes in a total overall length of 37.5 inches. The barrel is 18.43 inches with a 1 in 20 twist, and it weighs in at only 7.1 pounds. So definitely, like I mentioned earlier, when I had it slung and I was doing some pretty serious hiking, pretty decent vertical climbs, it did not get in the way or slow us down in any way. So 7.1 pounds again on the weight. Materials is going to be all steel construction with a satin finish hard chrome. So again, all weather there. You can get sleet, snow, rain on it, and it's not going to rust up on you. Stock and forearm are stained hardwood. They look very nice. They held up pretty well. I'll show you some close-ups here at the bottom. Got banged up a little bit just from hiking and stuff, but we like to call that here on the channel character. Moving along, the stock is a short length of pull, so 14 inches. I was happy to have that because I do have T-Rex arms, and as you can see, I can pull it up really quick. My wife had no problem as well. Sights, we're going to touch base on it real quick. We'll circle back as well. This has a scout style rail, and then of course you have a rear peep sight. Okay, not quite large like a ghost ring, but a rear peep sight, and then a front blade sight. While we're on that, I wish the blade sight was painted in some way. It's black on black. It was a little hard to pick up sometimes shooting, especially against a dark background like a dirt berm, but you can easily fix that with a sight blade paint. I think XS Sights sells a kit for this as well, but it does require using their whole rail system, so it could get pretty pricey. Caliber, of course, 4570. It's basically a 45 slug with a crap load of powder behind it. Capacity is 4 in the tube, 1 in the pipe. You have a large lever here, so they have 2 different versions of their lever guns. If you're new to Henry, they have just their straight classic loops and then something like this with a large loop. On this particular one, you can load it either with the magazine tube underneath will cover, and then of course you can also classically gate load it on the side. MSRP comes in at $1333 on Henry's site. Due to availability, I've seen these go north of $2,000 on Gunbroker, so they're a little hard to find sometimes, but $1,300 definitely a really good value for something like this. Okay, now that we got the basic specs out of the way, what is this used for? Well, it's pretty simple. Large game anywhere on the North American continent. for hunting or protection. Now, personally, I wouldn't use it specifically for hunting just because you are limited on range given the trajectory of this projectile being 300 grains. It's a very heavy slug. I would say I wouldn't use it anything over 75 yards. Of course, they say you can use it at 100, but just for hiking purposes and adrenaline that you're going to have in your system and taking that shot, I think 75 yards is definitely a good median there for usability on this platform. So heavy brush for sure is what this would be used for. Definitely not a wide open field. You know, you have 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 243, 270, 30-06, stuff like that. They would definitely be better served for a specific hunting day. But for protection, literally there was nothing else I wanted than to have this strapped to my back. A solid hard cast projectile, 300 grains, out of a 45-70 will drop pretty much anything charging you anywhere on our continent. So it felt very reassuring knowing that it was, you know, it's our job to protect our family, especially in a situation like that. And knowing I had this available gives you all the warm and fuzzies you could ever ask for. All right, let's cover the magazine tube here. Those of you that grew up shooting, I believe it was like Marlins and stuff growing up when we used to plink cans as kids, you're very familiar with the tube feed here. So just much stouter actual system here, not that little skinny thing you're used to. So, I mean, it's comical how large this thing is. So all you would do is remove this just past the feed port here, and of course drop the casings in, rim down, 4 of them, and then throw the tube in. You'll hear all the rounds load in under spring tension inside the tube, and you're good to go. Your other option, and then of course you can load it and then throw another one in the pipe because it's going to pull one up and draw it in. Your other option is you could port load it, or breech load it, and just make sure, and I'm going to probably, you know, explain this again, don't just drop the round in the breech and try to close it, okay? You really got to help guide it into the chamber. So I always had a habit of just putting just the tip of the projectile in the chamber and then closing the lever, and it'll throw it up in the chamber nice and smoothly. Then you can gate load it here on the side. You would just kind of like a shotgun, but instead of underneath, you do it on the side, slide the 4 rounds in, you're good to go. It's not rocket science, pretty simple. All right, next up, now we got loading out of the way, is the safety. It's passive, there is none. Think Glock style-ish, okay? Don't go crazy there in the comments section. But they use a transfer bar type safety, and I'll show you some macro shots here. I'll bust out my other lens and see how tight I can get. But essentially what happens is as you pull the trigger, it holds that transfer bar up, so as the hammer follows forward and hits the rear of the recessed firing pin channel, it allows that extra distance to close in and hit the firing pin, right? Now, if you are letting it down as if you're decocking it, which you should do after loading, and you let go of the trigger, that transfer bar slides down in its channel and it gives a recessed area. So if the hammer does fall, it has a recessed area to where if you do drop the hammer, it's not going to hit the firing pin because that transfer bar is slid down, okay? So hold the trigger, transfer bar continues upward in its channel, hits the firing pin, okay? And if you are decocking it and accidentally drop the hammer, that transfer bar is going to be too low, so when the hammer hits, that recessed area goes around the firing pin channel and nothing happens. So we will be testing that out in the range to see if we can get it to fire, of course, in the name of science. You have 2 sling studs here. I did have a rubber sling on it while I was out hiking the mountains, and it was great. Gave it a nice ability to grab onto whatever jacket I was wearing and not slide around. So definitely I would go with rubberized over leather. It's just gonna stay in its place better on your hike. Butt pad, shock absorbing, rubber type. That's gonna be nice under heavy days of fire, like sighting in or just having fun at the range. Should do a nice job of absorbing the recoil. I've already shot this a bit, but we're gonna shoot even more out of it today. Let's go back to the trigger. As far as the trigger brake, Not bad, actually. There's no perceivable creep. It's actually quite light. It feels under 5 pounds. It's probably more, but just the way the mechanics are. And I'll show you some close-up shots here in my finger. Yeah, there's no creep at all. It's actually a really good trigger, especially for something like this, as far as like a fast shooting lever gun. Now going back to the top setup, it's set up in a scout profile, meaning you could forward mount a scope that has a wider field of view for its lens, meaning you can set the scope so far forward and still use it. Not only you're not going to hit yourself in the face, but you can bring up the rifle, right, and shoot from here with a scope mounted right about here and have a really, really wide field of view for situational awareness, and of course have that magnification for that 75 to 100 yard shot. So that's pretty cool. I personally just like it set stripped. I even run my MP5s the same way. I don't run optics on them. I just prefer using the fixed sights on there. This is adjustable here for windage and elevation in the rear, and the front is fixed. But very, very, very easy gun to just bring up on your shoulder and line up that peep sight and that blade and take a pop shot. So I think that's enough rambling here in the studio. Hopefully you've enjoyed some really beautiful close-up shots of it, and let's go out to the range and see exactly how it shoots. Before we get shooting, a quick word from our sponsor, Capital Armory. They're the nation's largest silencer dealer and have expanded their silencer shipping ability to multiple states, with even more on the way. They can still ship directly to Texas residents, but they can now deliver silencers directly to your door for those in many other states. The process is simple and keeps everything in-house. So there are no additional dealers, transfer fees, or headaches. They manage the entire process from start to finish to make your life easier. The process is very simple. Once you purchase a silencer online through their website, you'll be contacted to begin your online customer profile to provide them with fingerprints and other necessary information to complete your e-file Form 4. After the ATF approves your form, Capital Armory will initiate electronic transfer paperwork with you, and your silencer will be mailed directly to your front door. And the best part is, your customer profile only needs to be done once, so you'll be ready to go for all future orders. Head to capitalarmory.com today to learn more. All right, apparently all I had to do to get some decent weather in Florida was to leave for a week. It's 60 degrees, the humidity is lower. I love filming in the fall. So, let's get started here. We have two different ammunition types. I'll show you some B-roll here on the screen. We have the solid lead cast ammo you would use for bear protection, and then we have some jacketed hollow points. Ironically, on the box, on the hard lead cast, it says low recoil, 300 grains, 1,500 feet per second velocity, energy 1,499 foot-pounds. Then you read the box on the bonded jacketed hollow point. It does not say low recoil, but it also says velocity 1,500 feet per second and energy 1,499. They're both 300 grains. So one says low recoil, one doesn't. I don't know what's going on there with the powders or whatnot, but same exact energy displacement, same feet per second, same projectile weight. So we're gonna shoot them both side by side to figure that out while function testing the gun. Now, like I discussed in the studio, there's two ways to load this little beast. You could tube load it like such, you know, just drop them in. We'll start with the hard lead cast here. Drop it in like so. 2, 3, 4. Now that should be all they can fit in the tube. And there we go, that's locked. You can see the back of the rim there. If we chamber it, it'll give us space to load one more, and we'll use the side gate. So two ways to load it. I just lowered the hammer, so it is just chilling on the bench. Put on my ear protection. We are not shooting suppressed today, in case you haven't noticed. And hopefully I won't yell at you here. My microphone seems to be working in the headset. So I'm just going to shoot some steel and do a function test here with this ammunition. Let's get to it. All right, see what it does to the steel. Hot damn. steel down. Round got a little stuck there. Probably the way I worked the lever. And one more. All right, that was 2 targets down. Kicks like a mule, I would say somewhere between a 6.5 Creedmoor and 308. 6.5 being less. It's kind of like right in the middle there. So it will beat up your shoulder after a full range day, but this rubberized flexible butt pad is definitely absorbing the recoil. You can kind of feel like a delayed impulse. So that was the solid hard cast. Now let's try these guys. And let's compare that recoil impulse to what I just shot. Oh, actually, this one's lighter. So the one that says low recoil is not as light as the jacketed hollow points. So that's pretty funny. All right, now what I want to do is test how safe that transfer bar is built into the hammer. So basically their safety that we discussed in the studio. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let's load up one of these jacketed hollow points here in case the gun does go off. It's not gonna scare the F out of me. And then let's test it here. I'm gonna put it in and then pretend that we're lowering the hammer and we accidentally drop the hammer. Like say you're out hunting with your buddies or whatnot, you're on a ranch, and see if the gun goes off. It shouldn't go off, and I kind of want to test the limits there after a couple takes and see like the timing of releasing the trigger and seeing how close we can get to make it go off for science. All right, so we'll load it here in the side gate. Round is chambered. I'm gonna pull the trigger and let go of the trigger. And then I keep re-cocking it. I'm gonna hold it as far back as I can before it catches. And I'm gonna let go. Oh, shit. All right, nothing happened there. Now I'm gonna go, without pulling the trigger, I'm gonna pull it back about halfway point. All right, now I'm gonna go all the way to where it's gonna catch. Right at the very end. Oh. Nope. All right, now I'm gonna hold the trigger and then release the hammer, so it's gonna fire. Yep. All right, it's safe. As long as you keep your booger picker off the trigger. Sorry for yelling. As long as you keep your booger picker off the trigger, it'll work. So it's all about timing. Just like a revolver, I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you grew up decocking revolvers and stuff. Who doesn't like playing with the mechanics of a revolver or something like this? It's just a motion that all of us have just gotten used to. You release the hammer and then take your finger off the trigger. You can see the transfer bar drop down, so of course it's not gonna fire, but I wonder if gravity would have any play in there. Let's see. Ooh. No, I don't think it hits, but now you know what we have to do next. Try it upside down to see if gravity will drop that transfer bar into the path of the hammer, hitting the firing pin. For science. Let's try it again. This is so nerve-wracking. Man, I don't know. This thing's gonna fly out of my damn hands if it goes off. I have no way to like scientifically do this properly, so just bear with me here. But we are fully upside down. I have my finger off the trigger, the hammer all the way back. Nope. Man, that was crazy. I thought it was gonna go off. So they thought of that. Naturally, if you're in a tree stand or something or whatnot, hiking, they thought of that. Let's do it one more time. I'm gonna shake it, make sure it has every chance to fall down. Nope. All right, good on you, Henry. Good on you. All right, now we're gonna shoot some groups from where we are. We're just past 25 yards. We're gonna shoot 3 rounds, just shoulder, with the jacketed hollow points. I have more. So we're gonna do 3-round group here. I'm gonna move way back to 100 yards and aim for the same grouping and shoot another group. Nothing fancy here, just shooting off a bag. Okay. Ready? I'm just gonna aim for the SF, the Suppress Fest stencil, right in the middle. Nothing super scientific here. We just wanna see it can hit minute O bear head, right? Ow. Weapon's clear, let's go check it out. There's those 2 targets we downed earlier. And here's the 3-round group I just fired from roughly 25 yards. Look at those nice clean holes. All right, so I was aiming right about here off a bag. Remember, it's a peep sight with a non-painted blade. It's a little hard to see exactly where I was, but we're gonna move way back to 100 yards now. Aim for the same area here, right here in the middle of the gun and the suppressor, and see what happens. All right, weapon is clear. Let's go check it out. All right, not too bad. There's the spread. So that is minute O bear face. I would be more comfortable, I think, with accurate shots a little closer. So I would say 75 yards would be the max for this. Now what I want to do is do some rapid fire drills here as if we're being charged by a bear and see what we can pull off. So I paced it out. This is exactly 10 yards, 30 feet. So you're pretty much screwed at this point. They can run, 30 to 40 miles an hour depending on their weight. This is probably more than a bluff charge at this point. So you're gonna get attacked, right? So how many rounds can you get off? Probably just 1, but I just want to rapid fire this thing and see if it'll hang up. So I'm gonna do my best to just really work the lever as clean as I can and see how fast I can dispatch these 5 rounds into steel, because science. All right. I already have the gun up, right? Because I'm aware of my surroundings. Bear's coming up. Hung up. You really got to work that lever clean. Otherwise, as you saw, it'll hang up. But like everything in life, practice makes perfect. Hopefully that first round went exactly where I needed. Let's wrap it up. Well, we shot just over 50 rounds today on and off camera. While that doesn't sound like a lot, I can assure you my shoulder is saying different. So this gun definitely kicks like a mule, and that's to be expected with such a beast of a round. So let's just start from the top. The jacketed hollow points from Grizzly here, even though it displays the same velocity and energy, they did feel a little less recoil than the solid hard lead cast bear killers. So that's interesting to note. One thing I forgot to mention too is you are able to breech load this. Just take care, this is empty of course, take care when you load it to just try to load the front of the projectile into the chamber a little bit and then close the lever, and that feed ramp will pull it up quite smoothly and load it up. Otherwise, if you load it too far back, it might get hung up, which I think is what was happening when I was running the lever really fast. I think the feed tray, the ramp was kind of bouncing the front, right? Like a pinball machine, the front of this. And the front of the hard lead cast flat nose was hanging up on the breech, on the top of the breech. And so wiggling the gun or reworking the lever was making it fall back down and then load it into the chamber smoothly. So it's probably a known thing, it's just not known to me until today, which is why we're out here. So accuracy, again, I think if you stay within 75 yards, even for a very novice shooter with something like this, I think you'll be A-okay. But of course, The majority of you that own one of these or want to own one of these, it's for mostly, I would say, protection and then hunting in the woods. I mean, for a hunting rifle, there's just so many options out there that are very accurate. I mentioned earlier, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, 30-06. Those are going to be your main, 270, 243. Those are going to be your main cartridges that a lot of you guys out there use to take down game. But for something like what I just used it for up in Wyoming and Montana, it's definitely something great to have. It has that scout profile like we discussed in the studio. This is very easy to bring up quickly, right? If you don't have a stupid pocket that grabs the butt pad like I do. Very easy to bring up quickly on target and put a lot of rounds downrange fast and accurately. That's what I love about these peep sights on these. No scope to contend with, even though you could forward mount a scope to have a wide field of view for hunting. But for defense, I just want to basically point shoot the thing. That's what you're going to be doing. Getting charged by something. You're just going to look at what's charging you, bring your rifle up and just fire. Let's be realistic here. So, didn't malfunction per se. I don't know how it would, right? It's a lever action, but everything worked as it should. It's nice to be able to tube load it. You will kind of wear down your thumb here, right, as you pinch those rounds through the side gate through an entire day of shooting. So that's what's nice about having the magazine tube here, the ability to load rounds. So if you're going to do what I'm doing here and kind of film all day or shoot all day at the range to sight it in or practice with it or whatnot, you could just tube load it and you're going to save your dainty little thumb. But that's good there. What else? Accuracy, decent for what it is. Basically, it's a 45 caliber projectile with a shitload of powder behind it, okay? But you still have a lot of weight flying down range. 300 grains is an incredible amount of weight. So the trajectory profile is that of a football. I mean, it's just, I'll throw up a chart. I'll find one for you, but this is not your typical center fire rifle that you guys are used to shooting like 308. This is lobbing a giant brick downrange and hoping it hits something, which is cool. It's fun, it's challenging. Running it fast, again, I was not happy with what we just filmed, so I'll throw up what I did off camera. Well, I filmed it, but there was no commentary. I ran it again with the solid hard lead cast 300 grain projectiles, as you can see, and I was able to run it much faster without any hang up. So again, practice makes perfect. So the only thing I would add to this gun is a threaded barrel. All they got to do is move this sight back just a little bit in production, throw some threads on there. They might have to change this or extend the barrel a little bit actually to get it away from this knurling on the magazine tube. So maybe extend the barrel a little bit, put some threads on there and a cap. Everybody will be happy. So, I believe Marlin does that, if I recall correctly. So that's what sets them apart. This is more affordable. I like Henry as a company. They're really great to work with. They sent this. They gave me 0 timeline on it. I knew I was taking this trip for the review and I wanted to wait until I actually used it in person. I actually used it for a week for what it was intended for before I filmed this review. So I've had this for quite a while. So it's nice that they just left me alone and let me do my thing. So if you have any questions, just shoot them in the comment section below. And of course, I spend a couple days after each upload answering any questions. So I will surely do the best I can. Stay tuned, 'cause we have a lot of reviews coming. And of course, if you're watching this in October of 2023, Suppress Fest is right around the corner on November 4th. And I can't wait to see you guys. See you next time.